Mr. Mayor, it is 9 a.m. and the live stream has commenced. You may begin your meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. Good morning, Council. Good morning, members of SLT, viewing public, and our presenter. I see that we do indeed have quorum this morning, so I call into session this regular council meeting on Wednesday, November 19th. And first on the agenda is the presenting of the national anthem. We ask all those that can to please rise. Next on the agenda is the land recognition statement, and this week, Councillor Kerr has the privilege. Councillor?
Thank you. The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land, steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hadiwadaronk, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. I now turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the approval of the agenda, and I have amendment moved by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Wink, that the agenda be amended to include item 10.4.2, information correspondence. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we have to vote on that.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so any discussion, questions on the amendment? Not seeing any. Call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Then I have the motion as amended to adopt the agenda for November 19th, 2025 as amended. Moved by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Wink. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, there's, actually, that's actually pecuniary, so let's go back. With the amended agenda, is there any further questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the question on the amended agenda. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. And then, after viewing the agenda, does any council member have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? And I see none. I'll ask the clerk to please note.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to our presentations, and we are joined this morning by Sean Jacob, Director of Energy at Brant Municipal Enterprises, to present the solar panel feasibility study for the Meridian Community Center.
Good morning, Sean, and welcome to council, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mayor Junkin and the rest of council and town staff, thank you very much for having me, and constituents watching through, I believe, YouTube. And I'm here to present the project here for the solar for the Meridian Center. Let's see here. There we go, and share. Oh, let me just back that up. We don't want to start from the end here. Alrighty. Okay, so BME performed the feasibility study. Through tender process, we were selected to do the feasibility study for the Meridian Center for solar. Sorry. Okay, so part of the agenda, we're going to discuss what BME, what we do, what BME is, the executive summary, project background and objectives, existing conditions and data, conceptual system design, energy modeling, scenario comparison, GHG and sustainability impacts, interconnection, permitting and compliance, scope of work, what would the scope of work look like, risk and mitigations, recommended next steps, and consideration. We did look at consideration for Canopy Solar. It's one of the requests through the tender process. Okay. Who is BME and what we are? So BME is Brant Municipal Enterprises. We are a municipal services corporation owned by the County of Brant. We are our primary stakeholder. Our primary stakeholder is the County of Brant. Most of the work that we do for BME, we have two divisions. One is energy, and the other one is development. So in the energy aspect of it is we do EPC services for renewable energy projects. So we do full turnkey EPC projects. We do energy modeling, as we did for here. We do EV infrastructure. We put several EV chargers in for the county, and we've done it also for other municipalities as well. Sports and light upgrading, feasibility studies, as you can see, and renewable energy. I keep pressing the wrong button there. Sorry about that. Alrighty. So overall, executive summary here is the MCC. I'll call it MCC. Uses about 2.7 gigawatt hours per year, and that's approximately about $391,000 in utility costs. The whole idea here today is looking at ways to reduce those costs long term, and it impacts any climate action initiatives that happen through it. So we've looked at the basic system, about 612 kilowatt system for rooftop. It's an offset of about 26%. The rooftop plus canopy, if that's, again, we explored that option. We'll go through that recommendation towards the end. Expands the amount to about 737 kilowatt, offsetting close to 40%. Rooftop is recommended base case, which we'll go through reasons why as we go through here, through our recommendation. Again, the background, here we go, feasibility study, targets, technical and financial. So we'll go through some of the technicality here. Again, I'm sure at the end you guys can ask, everyone here can ask as many questions as you like. Be more than glad to answer them. If I don't know for sure, I will get back to you. Okay. Again, the objective is to maximize on-site solar to offset to ensure compliance and optimize payback. Existing conditions. So the structural capacity supports the load that's going on. It was the 612. So the town staff provided a structural report of the rooftop. Our structural engineers confirmed it. We came to site. We reviewed all the site conditions to confirm that that would support that. Okay. Any rooftop constructions, fire code, trusses, limits constrained of array size. So we actually went on the roof, and the way we designed, we actually put a design together of how it would be laid out. So we looked at all the conditions on the roof, not just a simple overview and putting solar on top. Again, this would be about a little over 1,000 modules. Okay, optimal is the canopy system. It would be an additional 325. This would be a zero export, low displacement design, ensures full basically is full self-consumption. So there's a difference between net metering and load displacement. And the reason why we recommended the load displacement is because the Save on Energy grant that's out right now is based on load displacement. And what's the difference between the two? I'll go through that a little bit here before we go through the red screen. So the difference is that with net metering, you basically oversize the system so it generates more than what you need during the summertime. And that gets exported, all the extra energy gets exported to the grid, and therefore your local distribution company will give you credit for the months that you're not producing very well. Like maybe today would be nice, but if it's cloudy or especially during the winter months, you get credit back to that. And we always try to design zero net metering. So sometimes you can net meter, but it won't zero out your bill, but that's how we try to design. For this here, there's two reasons. As I said, the first reason, low displacement, because it's very healthy. The grant is very healthy from Save on Energy. And second of all, there isn't enough roof to make this zero net metering to completely cancel your bill. Another reason why low displacement makes sense here is because there's a lot of energy not only used during the summertime, but there's a lot of energy being used during the wintertime. I believe the staff concurred that you usually start turning on those chillers around in July. So your largest amount of energy use is during that summertime, and that's when you'll get the greatest benefit from that load displacement. So it's connected directly to the building. The solar system is connected directly to the building and is not exported out at all. So you'll be using the full use of the solar panels. Again, so scenario comparison, okay? Without the incentives, you're looking at about a 12-year payback with an IRR of 11.7 and an MPV of 440K. The MPV was based upon a 5% discount rate when we did the analysis for the MPV. 12 years, that's still a very healthy number for it, but with the Save on Energy, we're looking at 8 years. That is a very conservative number. We looked at, typical CapEx, through our own experience of doing rooftop solar or ground mount solar, looking at those numbers that we've done, looking at market analysis. We went out for pricing as well for racking systems and everything that's really put as, I would say, an accurate, conservative number. These numbers are conservative. After procurement and further analysis during the engineering process, when you go out for procurement, you're likely to see a drop about a year to maybe a year and a half in payback. Again, as BME, we like to be conservative in our numbers. Okay, so again, great GHG sustainability impacts. Again, this greatly reduces the GHG that the county is basically emitting. This would greatly reduce it. I'm not going to go through the details, the numbers of 136 tons and things like that, but I always like to do equivalencies. It really, especially people that are maybe watching this online, to understand it more in a relevant term. So 17 gas powered vehicles per year will be eliminated, 9,000 gallons, and it's basically in relative terms like planting about 1,300 trees a year. Did I skip one? Hold on 1 second here. No, okay. Okay, so zero export model maximizes grid complexity. So that's the idea here. It's zero export. It's tied directly to the building and using the full capacity of the solar. Okay, and again, this is going through everything of ECA and OBC compliance required for rooftop canopy. So we contacted local electrical safety authority, letting them know we're doing the feasibility study. Any records in the past of any issues, things like that came up, no issues at all. So the canopy option may trigger $100,000 to $250,000 in service upgrades. The reason why that is, typically when we start seeing close to a megawatt of production or generation, that could put a strain on the system. Now, you might ask, well, we're not exporting anything, so why is there a strain on the system? Well, sometimes some LDCs, I'm not really sure when this one here, again, that would be investigated, is that even though there isn't any export, they might still consider that there might be a chance of it getting exported. So what that means is that basically your wires and your grid can your grid and the transformers on the grid near the building can take on that load of the generation coming in there. So typically when we see that getting closer, so there might be a risk of that, those additional costs during the process of what's called the CIA process, which we'll go through that in a minute. Sorry if I'm getting a little bit too technical. So the scope of work includes engineering, procurement, installation, and commissioning. That's what we, considered in our pricing model. Okay, training and monitoring support for 25 years life cycle. That's included in that. This is typically what you usually get from a solar service provider as well. It's important to monitor the system. For BME, we have, for the county, we look after almost close to 5.5 megawatts of solar. That's over close to 30 sites. So BME monitor those on a daily basis. So again, options turnkey or BME, we can kind of go through that a little bit of recommendations, what that would look like. Again, risks and mitigations, always looking at risk. I'm a big person and BME always looks at risk. It's very important to look at risk. So structural risk mitigated by engineer attached and load planning. So again, we receive that structural integrity report from the building. So that mitigated that risk there. Financial risk managed via, early grant submissions and buffer budgets. So it's something that sometimes municipalities do, sometimes we do that. We submit the application for a grant, and sometimes council will say, well, pending on the grant, this could be approved. So again, that can buffer some of those financial risks for the town. And also operational risks. So we looked at all the operational risks. Training is very, very important. Maintenance of the asset is very, very important to make sure you keep your financial numbers and the integrity of the building itself. So again, recommendations for next steps. Again, staff might be able to comment as well through the process, through our meetings, because typically solar canopy, depending on the design, we recommended advanced rooftop system only based upon the incentive. Canopy only if grant secured by LDC risks resolved. So again, the LDC, if you decide to go there, I would definitely, we could do that for you. Contact the local LDC and see what their policies and procedures around load displacement and not exporting to the grid if they require any type of SCADA or any type of requirements that's needed to make sure it's blocked. And so another thing with the canopy, as we discussed with the staff, it can take up some prime parking spots. And I understand that the parking at the Meridian Center can get quite busy. So, and also typically when you have a very busy parking lot, sometimes the snow will fall off those solar canopies and you have to constantly move the snow around. Solar canopies are great, but very like anything else that you do, any kind of project you do, it's all application based. So a certain project might fit really well in a certain application, and certain projects don't really fit very well for certain applications. So again, canopy increases the offset, but doubles the cost per watt. Adds structural and operational and CIA complexity. So again, as I discussed, CIA is Connection Impact Assessment. What is that? For simple terms, it's basically a very large form, multiple pages that engineer or ourselves fill out. That basically gives lots of information around the system, and we submit it to the local LDC and Hydro One. They review it. They look at where the building's being tied into, what transformers. And they'll say, yes, this can take on the current infrastructure from your distribution poles and transformers can take on that load, you're good to go. Or they might come back and say, well, we need to modify, we need to increase the capacity of the transformer or put in some SCADA sort of instruments in it, and that can cause additional costs. Now we did perform a pre-CIA, there's no cost to that. All that really shows is the amount of capacity on the transformers. And we did see that there wasn't any issues with capacity on the current transformers. Looks like that a lot of that stuff was upgraded when the building was constructed. So that's a good thing. Some good signs ahead of time here. So, rooftop system is most valuable, lowest risk and highest return. Canopy introduces modeled grid costs and operational burdens. B, recommends advancing rooftop only design as base case. And those recommendations, what we do offer, in this case, obviously it'd be the best interest for the county to go to tender, but we do offer construction management services fully. So we can do the design, do all the engineering, help assist, write the tender, send it out, and then obviously manage the project. So any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. Before I open up to council, I guess my question, and this to the CAO, I guess, so will we be hiring this company to help with the RFP? Because you really can't do that, because isn't that a conflict of interest or not? I just wonder where we go from here.
Firstly, we're hoping for some direction from council. Do you find the basic concept attractive as a starting point? And if so, there are really a couple of ways for you to think about this. If you made the decision that collectively you're interested, this is our maybe fourth report on this, but we're now into the realm of realistic possibility. Then, with respect to the project, you have a decision point on rooftop only or rooftop and canopy. I think both staff and our expert are suggesting not canopy, either not at this time or ever, but certainly going the base only, i.e. the rooftop only. With respect on how to proceed, then you have a couple of decision points. We're very interested in this, but we want to see your success with the grant that's been identified. We were unsuccessful so the staff report is the next thing you're going to talk. I'm not trying to cut its legs out from under it, but in essence, do we try to go this on our own? There's a payback. It's a viable project if it's of interest to you, even without a grant. It's a much more viable project, obviously, with a grant, and it changes it's about 4 to 5 years less payback. But either way, there's notionally a business case for both. And then with respect to how to actually proceed, at the start of the presentation, it's very clear that the County of Brant is the sole shareholder. So I don't own shares and don't normally endorse doing business in a specific way. But this council, I've had the pleasure of serving you for 6 years and 4 months and 2 weeks, not that we're counting, but has made it abundantly clear that you like design build and bundling out projects. And we as staff have largely come around to your line of thinking. And this would be self-evidently a project where we don't have, it's not just that we don't have expertise, it's that we just got $17 million in Hughes funding, and you just approved a budget this week that is twice the normal capital budget we do, and that's going to keep us busy for several years. And the entire engineering department is busy now for years. Like, even if we thought we had expertise, and we don't, I think we would be highly likely that we would look to hand the whole enchilada to, in this case, a very trusted partner. They're part of the municipal family. They've been doing this for a long time. There's a lot of reasons to have good faith in Brant Municipal Enterprises. So, at the risk of endorsing. So were it of interest, and then depending on the scope you like, and then how. So we actually have some of those options in the staff report. You've indicated enough interest in the concept of solar thus far that we keep coming back with reports, but we haven't actually committed to anything yet, as of yet still. And I think there's a big decision point on, do we sort of initiate a process, go forward, a very specific process that you have the powers, council, to pass motions to direct us. There's sections of the procurement bylaw that allow us to go with design build. There are also sections that allow us, when expertise is required, to use our non-standard process, and BME does have experience with procurement, et cetera. Understand they're part of the municipal family, they just aren't us. So there would be ways to do that were that of interest to you. We expect you to kind of get into those parts of the discussion when you're at the staff report, which happens, we've moved up next on the agenda. So ideally, you'd throw some questions to try to satisfy yourself about why it might be rooftop only, or, and what sort of timelines, if we were interested in going forward, how long does it take to build a rooftop array that's that large when no one's even gone to tender on it? Like, those would be good questions and things we might like to hear.
Sure.
I just throw that out there. I will stop talking to prove I can.
So the CEO was right, so any questions, let's keep them to the report, and then when we get into to the next agenda item, that'll be, I think, when we discuss steps forward, perhaps. So anyway, on the presentation, any questions? No, Bob. Really?
Thank you.
Councilor Hildebrand,
Through you,
please.
Mr. Mayor. I have two questions that we've talked about ahead of time. The number one question is energy savings assumptions. As we know, the global adjustment number for a hydro bill during the summer is at 50% or greater. So when you look at that $391,000 in the summertime, that's a huge number. When you did your RET screen analysis and modeling, did it take into effect the savings from global adjustment?
So, through Mayor Junkin to Councillor. So to answer your question, the red screen model doesn't necessarily get that granular, but we do. We do through our financial analysis, and we did somewhat modify the red screen as well. So to answer your question, yes, it's because, especially because this is load displacement, meaning that's directly tied to the building and there's no export going out. You basically can greatly reduce, almost fully reduce your global adjustment costs on this project. So typically, again, through after final design, then you'll be able to know exactly what that is. But yes, your global adjustments will be greatly. Remember, you're a Class B customer. If someone wants me to go through the difference between Class C, Class B, and Class A, basically Class A has a very high global adjustment charge and very low kilowatt charges. So like 3 to 5 cents, and you're paying like 65 to 70% of that. Because of your Class B, you're not paying as high as Class A, but it's still very advantageous global adjustment charges during those summer months. So this will definitely greatly reduce it.
I thought the percentage saving would be greater than 8% based on that global adjustment number.
Through the mayor to the councillor, to answer that question, it would be if we can put more solar on that roof. But because it's 612 kilowatts is right now, as the, with, again, further design, I believe that we could possibly further that up by about 10%, about 60 or 70 kilowatt more, but not really much further than that, probably around 650 to 680 kilowatt DC after a further, full design, engineered design, but that's all you really can fit on that roof.
Okay. Second question I have is on grants.
Yes.
You're only including the Save on Energy grant. Is that the only grant that is available?
As of right now, of course, there's, what's great right now, what's happening with the province, the federal government, there's more and more grants coming out right now. But as of our research into this, when we did the feasibility study at start, we can certainly look into other grants, but right now that is the most feasible grant. Also, it is non-competitive, so it's not a competitive. It's just a simple Save on Energy. It's very simple to apply. If the town would like to apply for that grant, we'd be more than glad to assist. There's no cost to that, so we'd be more than glad to assist with that. So I think it's a very highly chance of getting approved for the grant.
Just an offhanded question with regard to applying for that grant. How much work is it for you to do that grant?
For us to
Terms
do
of
it fully, obviously with counting staff report, it would probably be 2 or 3 hours.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nesnick.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for your presentation. So just a couple questions, and it might be actually through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Marr, in terms of the actual condition of the roof itself and the expectation of the roof itself, lifespan versus installing solar panels on a 25-year life expectancy of the solar panels. So what happens when you have to repair the roof that's underneath the solar panels? Or how will that jive, I guess, is the question. That would be a concern.
Sure. Through the mayor, the councillor. A very good question. We get that question all the time. Actually, we've got 4 projects on the go right now where we're moving solar panels so the roofer can get back on the roof and fix the roof. Typically, that can't happen if there's, let's say, a roof. Typically, there's ways to go around moving any solar panels or any disconnections, but if that causes it, we do an analysis to making sure you're not removing all the panels, letting it sit. So typically, every section of the roof on top is tied to a certain inverter, so you don't necessarily have to remove the entire rooftop. You just do it by section. So what you do is remove a certain section so you still get production, not 100%, maybe 90% or 75%. You fix that roof, you put everything back on, and you kind of move around the roof to do that. So, but right now, the way the roof is set up, we wouldn't be using any direct embedment clamps or drilling or anything like that to go through the roof. There's the technology now that is all subsurface.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Wink.
Through you, Mayor. Sean, thank you very much for the presentation. Very intrigued with the what you're saying. Just in layman's terms, like you've talked about kilowatt hours and everything else, like that's for Bob to figure out. I'm more on the financial side. So we've got utility costs of $391,000 a year on the MCC. If we were to install that, I'm not going to hold you to an exact number,
I understand.
but how much will that $391,000 be reduced?
Between 26 and 32%.
Okay. Sorry?
I calculated that. It was $101,000 per year.
Okay. So almost, so we'd be probably looking at around 200,000, no, 300,000 then. So
A little less.
yeah, still spending.
It'd be a little bit more because the global adjustment.
Yeah.
Figuring in there, I would say about $150,000 to $160,000 reduction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Kerr.
I'm going to come in as the layman, not worried, not the money and not the technical side. The actual solar panels themselves, it's always my brain's thinking the word tariffs, if they come through the U.S. or something relative to Canada. Is this an issue potentially increasing that would alter the costs at any point? I mean, a year ago, we wouldn't have thought of that, but now suddenly it becomes part of the equation. Does that change things?
Through Mr. Mayor, the councillor, very good question, and something that as BME for the county projects and other constituents projects that we're doing, we really had to look at that very closely. We saw some impacts because of the tariffs on panels, solar on the racking itself because they're made out of aluminum, but through months of procurement and making lots of calls to suppliers and things like that, we, and I know other contractors as well, has been able to do this, but we've mitigated that. So like BME, we have direct ties to manufacturers, either out of South Korea. We look at Canadian manufacturers. They're great, but pricing might be a little bit higher. But we've found ways to mitigate those tariff costs.
Okay, thank you. And one last one. I guess, does the installation of the solar panels mitigate heat accumulation within a building? Like I think classically on a house roof, they always talk about try and have trees to get shade to reduce the accumulation. And I'm looking at that roof being a massive heat draw in the summer with direct sunlight on the top of it. Now you cover panels over top of it. Does that reduce the heat load within the building itself?
Through the mayor, the councillor, to answer your question, typically the answer would be yes, a bit, but in this case here, not much. And the reason why is because this roof was actually specifically designed. It's more of like a off-white roof, which reflects a lot of that as well already. So to answer your question directly, typically yes, On this case, not much, no.
Okay. Any other questions on the presentation? Councilor Nesnick.
Yes, so thank you. So maybe could you just describe what the canopy portion of this would look like and is? I just don't understand what you meant by canopy. So I guess it's a off-site, like a field of solar panels in the parking lot, or wherever you choose to put it. Just describe that a little more for my understanding, please.
Absolutely, through the mayor to the councilor. To answer your question, there's basically three types of roof. So that's rooftop, which we're looking at planning, ground mount, which would be out in a field somewhere, and mount a canopy is basically, think about a canopy with solar, solar on top of it. So it would be basically a mounted structure that cars would park underneath, and you would solar panels on top.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you mind if I quickly comment on your question on timing?
Yes.
Is that okay? Thank you. Through the mayor to CAO. So the timing would basically look like this. As soon as a contract is signed, the CIA process would begin. It would be 2 or 3 weeks for any engineers or our engineers to process CIA. So you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks for that. The CIA process takes up to 60 days, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on the backload of the LDC. So after those 60 days, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to procure the equipment, not solar panels or inverters, but long lead time items per se, let's say transformers or switch gears. And then after that, and you're looking at, for this project here, about 8 to 10 weeks for completion.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question or two. So I take it you're not tied in to one solar panel manufacturer. You go wherever, hopefully the price is right, but also the quality.
Yes.
Okay, and in your last, let's say, in your last year or 2 years, have you indeed switched back and forth depending on whether it be market or quality or what have you?
That's a very good question, Mr. Mayor. So to answer that question is a little bit, if you don't mind, it's a bit more complex. So typically, yes, we look at the quality is definitely important, right? And obviously cost is very, very important. So it's mitigating the two together. And I've been in the renewable business for almost 25 years, date my age here, and I've installed over a gigawatt of solar in my career through project management across Canada and the U.S. So understanding the good quality and relationships with certain manufacturers is key. But for us, to answer that question is a bit different for us. For us, because we look after so many sites, having one software to go into and look at 30 sites is important. So sometimes that's related to the inverter. But yes, to answer your question simply, we look at quality and price are the two things. Also, everybody carries a warranty. How hard is it? We've seen great warranties, but it takes 6 months to get a response or 3 months to get a response. So through we do procure, but we've got basically 3 top suppliers that we work with that have good quality, great pricing, and also response time for customer service, because response time is crucial when a warranty happens, because if something goes down, you're losing production and you're losing money.
And I found it interesting, you think of it as one great big complex, but it isn't. It's different grids, and each grid goes to an inverter, as you
Yes.
stated. And then, and this would be maybe for legal or perhaps, if there is wind damage during the warranty period, do you automatically cover that, or does that go to our insurance company? Yeah, well, let's go back to another question. Have you ever had wind damage on solar panels?
So, Mr. Mayor, to answer your question, yes, not often, I would say, the last 20 years, maybe 3 times. And typically that's happened on ground mount, not on rooftop, 1 time on rooftop. So it doesn't really happen. But if it does, typically, a force majeure, that's what I would call it, an instance on a solar panel that wouldn't cover under warranty. Now, would that cover the contractor, let's say us? We would look at, typically what we do is, for BME, we would offer a 2-year full labor and warranty on the project. So even when wind damage or things like that do occur, we would compensate for that. Okay. But typically, to answer your question, no. If it's a force majeure event, those warranties usually do not cover.
Okay, thanks.
And we always order extra solar panels on hand, so you could, replace them quickly.
And is that something, let's say the warranty period goes out, is that something that our public works people could do as far as replacing panels, or is it pretty sophisticated, need expertise?
Through the mayor, after that warranty period ends, if the town decides to take on that maintenance themselves, we would absolutely provide the utmost training to be able to show the staff and show the maintenance staff how to replace panels.
Okay, thank you. So you do installations. How many installations would you typically do in a year?
So right now for the next year, we've got 3 that we're doing, and 3 to 4 in the next 2 years right now for the county, partly for the county and a bit one project for Six Nations development. Six Nations, we're doing a school for them, and then one for the private sector. So
Excellent. And have you done any in the Niagara region?
no,
No.
he has not. No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Councilor Hildebrand.
One different question is, have you ever installed solar blinds?
Solar blinds? No, I have never installed no solar blinds.
Okay, thanks.
Solar windows, yes.
Solar windows. Because I was at the Cisco building in Toronto, and they use solar blinds.
Oh wow,
Thank you.
that's fascinating.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions to the presenter? Councilor Wink.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Sean. What's the overall cost of installation and getting this up and running?
I believe it's in the report. Sorry, on the top of my head, I'd have to confirm, but I think it's around 1.2 million, around there, a little over 1.2, I believe.
So we lost out on the grant. What's the possibility of getting reapplication to another grant, similar to what we've done before, where we've been turned down twice and the third time's the charm? What's the likelihood of getting a grant, or are we going to end up doing this on our own?
So the question is, do we see anything in the near future?
Yep.
Yep. Mr. CAO?
So to my knowledge, I don't think I'll claim expertise, but I've had to kick the tires a little bit on this file over the last year. The sort of the Save on Energy program, and then separate from that, FCM has a program. I would end up advising against us participating in the FCM program. They end up offering up to 20% of what they loan you as a grant, but they're not flexible at all in their repayment terms, and it's not a good interest rate, and that's actually how they fund themselves. So you couldn't pay it off early even, it's not like a mortgage, there are no escape clauses. It's in the best interest of FCM, not the borrower. That leaves you Save on Energy, and I think our presenter is correct in that. So we have recently done one grant application with this project in mind, and so we've gathered our data and done the work once. Admittedly, it's a different grant application, but we can copy and paste from ourselves, so we're not starting at zero. And I too think we'd have a good shot at Save on Energy, although I'm not the approval authority. But would just be a couple $100,000. I shouldn't say just. I'd love a couple $100,000, but it's not looking at. It won't be the whole enchilada. That's not in the cards. It would be a reasonable subsidy were we successful, which is why, in the analysis it takes down about 4, maybe 5 years off the repayment on 1.2 million. So that's certainly worth at least trying. I would submit. Were we talking about the report in front of you? But we are completely unaware, and we have a grant team that's been looking of any grants beyond that are. I don't think there's any world where someone else is going to pay 100% of the costs for free. From our perspective, for free. you're expected to have skin in the game to make these things work, and it's for local benefit, not really societal benefit, so that there's a reason why other orders of government don't do too much in the grant space here. I think the Save On Energy is the most attractive one for this community, I say without exact grant expertise. So those are things you might consider when we're in the report. But so there is at least one good program available now that we probably qualify for and would probably be successful. And I'm sure if it was the will of council, we would absolutely say yes to the assistance in wrapping that up together. We do have good grant writing people, but there's some expertise, decades of it, that we don't have, of course. So I think between those two, there's every reason to think we'd be successful.
So then on a best case scenario, we'd still be out $1 million to put this in. How are we going to fund that?
To the treasurer?
Yes, although, again, we're just a little premature on that conversation. There is some reporting later on in the agenda
All right.
around debt, and certainly I very much want Ms. Quinlan Murphy to speak to that. But
So maybe we'll save that to when maybe we get to the
thanks.
report. Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions on the presentation? Deputy Mayor Eckert?
Yeah, just briefly, just came to mind. So when we were talking about the canopy out in the parking lot, and you were saying, you know, we're sensitive to parking spaces there, especially we're hoping to expand the parking lot and pave it. In your estimation, how many parking spots do we lose putting in? Because you satisfied part of it by saying you can actually park underneath it. So we don't lose that whole square footage in all those spots. So how many spots typically would you lose?
Through the mayor, the councillor, typically we see between 5 and 10%.
Okay, thank you.
Great, so then if I can ask one or two more questions.
Please.
And maybe I want to ask it while you're here as opposed to go to the report. So there is a company in southwestern Ontario, and I don't know if it's you or not, that does the installations and then funds it and then takes a percentage of the profits. Do you do that, or is that another company?
Mr. Mayor, no, we don't.
Okay,
right now,
you don't
as of
get
right
in,
now, we don't offer that.
you don't get in any financing or anything like that? Okay,
We could look at that for you, for that.
Yes.
Looking at it, and or at least help you process maybe funding through IO. That's your best, I mean, that's the best grants right that's out there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would confirm that with
Yeah.
your CFO or your CAO on that.
yep, okay, excellent. I think I'm done.
worry.
Thank you very much. One last time, any other questions? Not seeing any, I turn to the clerk. And again, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that Council receive the solar panel feasibility study presentation from Brant Municipal Enterprises, Inc. for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. One last time, any questions or comments? Not seeing any, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, and that brings us to the associated staff report, and I have a motion by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2025-0234 for information, and that Council directs staff to proceed with investigating additional grant opportunities for the implementation of rooftop solar panels at the Meridian Community Center, and report back to Council with recommended grant and funding options for future implementation. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So now, so it's a 1.2 million project from this company. Well, I don't think there's any way that this council will want to do a 1.2 million project without going out to tender. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what this council has always been about: is tendering and putting. I know is a company that has put many installations in the Niagara region. They're interested in this project. So that's my outlook right off the bat, is that as great as this presentation is and as great as this company is, there are other companies out there. And I would sure, at 1.2 million, I think we would rightly so, have our hands wrapped by the public why you didn't go out to tender with this. So that's where I am right now on this. So anyway, on the staff report, any questions? Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I completely agree with you on going out to tender. I don't think this is a sole source application that we should be entertaining. There are other companies out there that offer similar packages, and we would be making a mistake if we didn't look at all of them, and especially if some are, we'd have to take a close look at the ones that finance them, and then we take a percentage, et cetera. I did have a question for Treasurer, but I didn't want to steal Councillor Wink's question that he had earlier, but it was about financing as well. So would we be looking at something to simplify it, paying for this out of the savings that we get? So in other words, if we're paying $361K a year and that drops down to, to 200 and some odd thousand, that money that we're saving that we had budgeted for electrical bill, would that be what would go towards paying this project?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, right now, so if the project is $1.2 million estimated, and if we get the grant, it's down to $1 million. So if we take debt out on $1 million, it's approximately $90,000 interest and debt payments. So yes, the savings from the energy could pay for the debt, for the debt in year. He mentioned that it's an 8-year payback. The good news is that after the 8 years, the $150,000 of savings, or $100,000, whatever, is in perpetuity. So that's where the municipality would benefit, just like we did with the LED. We had to put the investment in for the LED lights, the street lights, and now we have, a savings every year from doing that. So this is the same concept as that. But yes, if the amount is under, if it's about $100,000 at least of savings, then it definitely would be able to pay for the debt and interest coverage. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Any further questions? Because we do have, I believe this report has, this is a report with 4 options.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a recommendation, but there are 4 options presented as alternatives.
Yes, there we go. Proceed with the installation of rooftop solar panels, proceed with the installation of both, do not proceed at all. And one thing that we do also have to remember, Council, is not only is the financial savings, it is the benefit to the environment, as this presenter showed. We're reducing the greenhouse gas equivalent to planting, I think it was 1,300 trees. Myself, I'm all for proceeding with this. I just think that for 1.2, I think that we should do our due diligence as a council and put it out onto the market. But at the same time, while we do that, keep going with the grants. I'm hoping that Mr. Carney perhaps isn't quite done with his projects and grants. Maybe there will be something green from the feds. This definitely is a green project, that's for sure. And a question to the CAO. This council has paid for 4 studies. If we did go out to tender, and obviously we paid for those studies are ours, would those studies, if asked for by outside companies, would they have access to these studies, or how would the town handle that?
Brant Municipal Enterprises was here today as that's the final piece of work in satisfaction of an existing contract. So we did a tender, we went through the usual process. They won that to do the engineering consultant. Like that was I think that was in fact partially paid for, largely paid for by a grant, in fact. I'm getting head nods, so that's true. So that's been paid for. We now have, what we know now, as opposed to, I think it's either a third or a fourth report to you on this topic. We now know that the roof can in fact take solar panels. That was in open question and doubt because of the design of the MCC did not envision this, and as cost-saving measures, the roof wasn't as strong as it otherwise would have been, in plain English. So we now know they can take solar panels. We have now been through, staff have learned enough, and we've talked to enough consultants and those who work in this industry to know that the battery, anything that requires us to store power and try to sell it back to the grid is not going to work. It is not large enough. So you really have two things here. If you wanted to tell us to ultimately track down see how successful we are with grants, great. Then if you wanted to tell us to go through the tender process, so be it. But like our advice now is pretty strongly, we're not going to attempt to sell electricity back into the grid. That makes it hopeless. This project is too small. That makes it hopelessly complicated. All of a sudden you need infrastructure on the ground, i.e. immediately outside the MCC, and we're either taking away parking spots or adding something to, like, that's not good. So we've completely gone away from any model that involves us trying to be entrepreneurial about this. This solar farm, even if we put the parking structures, like where you can park under, will not generate enough power for the building. So the vision is absolutely not to be selling to anyone else and to be it's just to reduce our own costs and, of course, the planetary benefits. So in that, we could go through our own tendering process, but seek design build services so that ultimately we're looking for someone to come in and just kind of do the thing. And at the end of the day, we get solar panels that work. And then it doesn't matter where the business is from or who the business is, X dollars, and we get a deliverable, a turnkey at the end of it. That is certainly something I think is universally endorsed from the director who runs the facility to the directors in charge of engineering to finance, like that model works for us. And if anyone is happy to play within those parameters, but it's become abundantly clear to me that there's no way for us to engage in, originally we're hoping, well, hey, we could generate power and sell it. No, we're not gonna generate enough power for the building. So that's kind of off the table. And anyone tries to sell us otherwise is literally trying to sell us something. So based on those parameters, we have a couple of different ways forward, and we're happy to take direction and how you might want to proceed. I think if we ever got to the point of issuing a tender and awarding it to someone, it's going to be at least 6 months until you get a finished product, and that's if everything goes well. Realistically, I think it'd be longer than that, but that may have been rosy. Still, something like that. So the question is, to what effort do we put, go into save on it, or apply to other grants, and or cart before horse, horse before cart, and relative to a budget you just passed, relative to questions, Ms. Quinlan Murphy, about, so this would require debt, right? Like that's the plain English of that. We don't have money in the bank for this. We will have to borrow. That will incur interest costs, and the payback numbers you were shown are different. That assumes we're borrowing more, like around 150 a year to get to those. Ms. Quinlan Murphy talks about 90,000 a year, and her math is right, but she's looking at a different payback period and paying less a year. So do we need to align those? Can we change, obviously the more you pay, the faster you get it paid off, but also the more expensive it is. If you definitely want it to pay for itself, it'll have a longer run, a longer payback, but of course less risk to us. Like it's far more likely that the savings will cover to the deputy mayor's costs. So we haven't done all that analysis. That's back of envelope. It's correct back of envelope. But we didn't feel we had authority at this point. It would be premature for us to try to do that type of work. So we're very happy to take your direction. You have a bunch of options.
Excellent. Okay, excellent. So this is one thing we are going to decide hopefully today, kill it or go forward. That's basically, and that's the cost it's going to be, whether it starts out at 1.2, give or take 100,000 probably, whatever, and then minus any grants we get. But basically, myself, I'm all for this project. I think it's environmentally friendly, but I would like to see us proceed looking for grants, but also put out an RFP on a design build. And of course, a design build, we give them the specifications, and then and we'll tell them right off the bat, we don't expect to sell, blah, 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 whatever presentation was. And then we see we roll the dice and see what happens. And I honestly think that this is a great project to keep going. But that's my opinion. Council, let's hear what are you saying? What are you thinking? Councillor Kerr.
I think going through the numbers, I think to me, it makes total sense to go forward. In listening to the rationale behind adding a canopy over the parking lot, albeit that they get returned, but to lose 10% of your parking spaces at a particular spot where we just don't even have, we'd like to have 10% more parking than what we have now, rather than lose it. I understand the economics behind it. I went to the, I guess I call it the appendix, which was on page 36, put out by the staff, of looking at scenarios for the costs, for the gross, the incentives, the simple payback on there. And it's, what I was intrigued there was that the grant money was way bigger listed on that than what has been discussed. So it sort of changed things for me. I'm like, how come I hear this and then I see this, and how come these numbers are significantly different? Regardless, I would take the more conservative win. I was pleased to hear that the Save On grant was not really a competitive grant. It's more of an application system that you go into, which is a little different than maybe some of the grants that we've faced before, where there's 7 or 8 municipalities and everybody's challenging for the same pot, and how do we write our grant to make us look better, kind of thing. This seems to be fairly straightforward from my perspective. I'm all for going ahead. I personally will not support a canopy investigation at this time, even with the preliminaries, and that's a single person's comment, but the ones that canopies I've seen in use in Florida do take up substantial parking spaces. It's surprising how much they lose because of all the support posts and everything else that have to go in and the wiring. So I don't think we have the facility to do that at the MCC or the wherewithal to make that a viable option, albeit it adds more money. It's kind of this in between, but I can't support that. So I will support that we go ahead. I appreciate your comments on the RFP. That doesn't preclude BME from applying for it. They've already done a lot of the preliminary work, so I don't think this would be a dramatic difficulty. I was impressed in the fact that a municipality has an organization and they've got like 30 different projects on the fly with one entity. That to me shows a track record of, you must have some degree of reliability. If they keep expanding and keep taking on more, the other side being a municipal entity, it can be there, but private enterprise can always go belly up. Generally, municipal organizations and municipally sponsored entities don't have that, from my perspective. Those are kind of the things that I keep in the back of my mind. So I'm fully supportive of it, and I'll stop at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, Councilor Nasdaq.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I would concur with Councillor Kerr on the moving forward with just the rooftop only solar panel project. When I look at, certainly let's see if we can get a grant of any amount of money would be favorable for sure. But I think at the end of the day, even if no grant is available, financing this project is a worthwhile cost. So really the payback would be within 15 years of the project being initiated. And with regards to that's RFP is kind of our next step. So today really it's just choosing one of those 4 options. So I think we can, hopefully exclude option 3, which is to kill the project. And then the other one is just to, so I guess I would be in favor of either number 1 or number 4. Certainly starting with the grant. I guess my question with regards to the RFP is I think we would really before, like cheapest always isn't best. And my concern is, are they using quality materials to build these solar panels? And is the company, so I think we want to tread very carefully on which company we do choose, because you want quality materials up there. So he mentioned, aluminum from Korea. I'm not sure that would be those sorts of things. So you really want to make sure you have a trustworthy company that you're going to end up putting this into business. So, as I said, just cheapest isn't always best in terms of this sort of thing. So you kind of get what you pay for at the end of the day is some of my thinking. So those are my thoughts. Certainly, I think it is great. And I was really excited to see the environmental impact that it's going to have as well. So that's wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Nesnick. I'll go to this side again. Councilor Wink?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Option 2 and option 3 are out as far as I'm concerned. Yes, we want to go ahead with it. No, we don't want a canopy on the parking lot. 1 and 4, it's pretty much the same thing. Like, yeah, we want to go ahead with it, try for the grant, but if we don't get the grant, let's still go through. So whether that it's just the wording, they're kind of the same, but they're not. Yeah. So I think it's a blend of option 1 and 4. I think 4 is probably a little more accurate on what we want to do. But the building upon Councillor Nisnick's comments, it's also the warranty. Mm-hmm. And we've got to be careful with our RFP, that if there's an issue that they're going to be there right away, as opposed to waiting 6 weeks or months to repair it. So that's got to be built into it. I understand where the mayor's coming from with respect to the RFP, but it wouldn't surprise me if we land on this company anyway, but at least we've done our due diligence. So yeah, I agree with Councillor Nisnick and the mayor.
A very agreeable fellow today. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would agree with the previous comments. I think option 2 or 3 for me are dead. And I would be in support of option 4. I think this is a project that we want to and ought to go ahead with. And I think if we choose option 4, we're still going to be applying for grants and the subsidies. So, option 1 is really part of option 4. Although it doesn't say it, we're going to be doing those things. And I think that needs to be made very clear. So my support would be for option 4.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll go to this CAO. Excuse me. Go ahead.
In hearing your commentary, Council, then really I think a good way forward then is to slightly pivot our thinking and think about the direction you want to give us. I think there might be benefit in, God help me, it's not like I want a 5th report, but in us coming back in January, because that would give staff some time. We're talking about a complicated RFP and not our usual sandbox for us. we can get examples from elsewhere. We've learned a lot over the last year and a bit on this file. So I'm sure we're capable of putting that together. We have professionals throughout the corporation, including in purchasing, so we'll be fine with that. But I think I can only guess that Ms. Quinlan Murphy would like a chance to write a dedicated, purposeful report, assuming the worst case scenario that we got no grant, that we're unsuccessful in that, writing it for option 4, assuming we're paying for everything. And if you see, finance periods and like different options, you could give us some, because that would be irrelevant to an RFP piece. So we could actually work on those two things together, which might be the more expeditious way forward. And then we could come back in January with some, I think, fairly concrete things. I think Mr. Marr's team would probably like to say some more engineering kind of stuff and facilities kind of stuff with this kind of direction. And then with any luck, maybe by about February, we could, I don't know if that'll be possible. I don't want to, but I can see why maybe by February we could let out an RFP if that were the will of council. That would give us the Christmas break, some time in January to come, late January to come to you and take final direction, and then hopefully we'd be able to turn something around. We are, of course, heading into our busy purchasing and tendering season. We've just passed a budget successfully. Again, congratulations, excellent week. But of course, that in turn means we're able to go as far as a large number of public works projects. So that was at least part of my thinking in indicating there was a different way around our purchasing policy, because it just happens to be the worst time of year for purchasing to take on another major project. However, we've learned a lot, and that would give us some time. So if that so pleased you, you could add commentary if you wish, or we could take it as direction, but the recommendation is simply that we keep applying for a grant, and we would take it that we should apply to save on energy at a minimum. And or at the moment, that's the only one I know of that we would be applying to. Maybe there are more. Certainly our grant writing staff know more than I do. But, and then we'd come back with one final report. So you could see more concrete numbers relative to, we have this data and different pay periods, and we'll just write you a worst case scenario report where we're unsuccessful, and you can see if you can live with those numbers and give us direction then.
Yeah, council. Myself, that plan definitely satisfies my requirements for this going ahead. Council, Council Wing?
Yeah, so just to be clear then, we're not picking an option then at this point in time. We're referring it back to staff for further information.
If you vote for the recommendation, we will take as direction that we owe you another report with more specific, certainly with more specific financial analysis. I don't know that exactly we're going to do engineering analysis per se, but there might be some facilities commentary in there. And then with rough time periods on a go-forward schedule, some attempt at looking at the future, but when we could have this up and running.
So then looking at this, option 4 is the one that we should be picking, because it says this option would require further analysis, and that's where we're going to get the staff report. So we are essentially picking an option. Correct? No.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this isn't a traditional options report. There is a recommendation tied to the report already, being that council directs staff to proceed with investigating additional grant opportunities for the implementation of the rooftop solar panels and report back to council with those options for future implementation. So
Okay.
the options are just an alternative, not required.
And you've heard that we want to proceed and we don't want a canopy.
Is there any director who'd like to, maybe we should hear from Mr. Marr and as to timelines? 'Cause I was thinking second meeting January, but if you don't feel that's realistic, could someone please indicate so?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this report was to prove to council that this job could be completed. So we've done that. We've got a feasibility study. We've got a baseline business case for that project to happen. So this report is basically asking to receive information and then to either move ahead with the project and explore other grant opportunities and funding sources, or cancel the project, right? So we're hearing council would like to proceed with looking at other options. The options that were provided in the report will come at a later time. Once we do the investigation into what grants are available, come back with a more solid business case, we can then provide options to council on what delivery model we use to deliver the project. I think we've heard from some councilors here, but we can provide some options to council at that time with respect to how the project actually gets delivered and what that business case looks like in more detail. So that report, I think, can come depending on when we hear back from the grant opportunities that may be out there. It will take some time to apply to those grants. We would need to receive some feedback on those prior to bringing a report to council to see what the financial position looks like for the project. So
Oh, sorry. Can I jump in? We can show an option. We could say that if the project's 1.2 million and we get a grant of 200,000, this is what it's going to look like. If we get no grants, this is what it's going to look like. So we can show the worst case scenario. So we don't have to have the final grant amount.
through you, Mr. Mayor, so yes, correct. We know the cost of the project based on the feasibility study. So that we do know. With respect to the grants that are available, depends on what grant is available, which would determine what the financial position of the project would be.
Okay.
The question, can we have it by the middle of January is the question.
Madam Clerk, what's the second meeting date in January?
The 28th.
Realistically, that's probably realistic, but if we fail, we'll manage the first meeting in February. And I think
Yep.
Old College strive for second meeting in January.
So one other comment, if I may. Again, pretty big project for us doing this, 1.2. A lot of variables, it seems. We had this presentation. Would it be possible that when we put out the RFP, whether we take the top two, we take the top three, we also give the other ones, let's say 1, 2, 3, the opportunity to address council?
Yep.
Why not? These guys came and gave us all of their things and what have you. I can't understand why we can't give the same to another business. Go ahead, Councilor Wink.
So they were doing a consulting report for us at this point in time. When we do RFPs, we never have the respective companies come out to us and provide presentations. Wow. Staff go through the RFPs and make recommendations based on what they have. We never have multiple companies come to us and give us their spiel. This guy was a consultant. We paid for a consultant's report.
Okay, I withdraw that. I think it's a no-brainer, but obviously it's not the will of council, so we'll do it as usual. That's fine. So, Madam Clerk, anything else on this file?
No, if there's no further discussion, the recommendation is as I've presented, and we'd be looking for a vote.
Okay, excellent. And we know what the vote is consisting of. So, and staff is hoping to get back either the last meeting in January or the 1st of April. Excellent. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, first, like January, February, February. Okay, so any other questions or comments? Not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Excellent. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the adoption of council minutes, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. C-18, 2025, regular meetings of council, November 5th, 2025. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any errors or omissions.
Yep. After reading the minutes, any council member have any comments or corrections to make on the minutes? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk. So I call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 9, requests to lift consent agenda items. If there are any items which council would like to lift, now would be the time.
Okay, thank you. After looking at the consent agendas, is there any item that any council would like further discussion on? And different endings, I guess. Not seeing any, so no council wants to lift.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the consent agenda, and now would be the time to speak on any topics contained within, and it is quite a lean consent agenda, so perhaps it can be considered as a whole.
Sure, excellent. Any of the consent agenda that any council member wants to comment on? If I may, just the Royal Canadian Legion sent out that gratitude letter to all area businesses that accepted their poppy boxes. I have talked to the Legion. They've done their preliminary. It looks like if they didn't quite make the goal, they came pretty close to it. And I just want to say that, again, thank the Legion 613 for having doing all the work to put together the Remembrance Day ceremony on November the 11th. That's all I wanted to say on that. Anyone else comment on? Oh, Council Nesnick?
Yes, thank you. Just with regards to 10.4.2, request for the urban boundary, I just wondered if any work had been done on that or any response by anyone on staff. So through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe somebody could comment on that for us.
We will go to our Director of Planning, Ms. Duesling.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor. Yes, we have, staff have responded. I've responded to Troy and Leslie Montgomery. I've assured them that through Bill 185, urban boundary expansions can be done outside of the 10-year official plan study now. However, there is a process to do that, which includes an official plan amendment. In this situation, probably a zoning bylaw amendment as well, with the appropriate studies and costs. So we have offered the opportunity to work with them through that. However, I have also identified that the subject lands are entirely located within the specialty croplands and the greenbelt area. So it would be very difficult to expand. There is currently no opportunity at this time. As well, we also have in the Fenwick urban area the appropriate boundary until 2051, which is our growth period. So they have all this information.
Okay, thank you very much. So they can proceed through
If they
that
wish to.
direction as needed. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Any other question or any other comments on any of the agenda items? Not seeing any. If I can just say one other thing then on, which one is it? 10.2.1, the tree maintenance program summary report. I like the fact that when we take a tree, we plant 4 and what have you. It's a great program. I'm sure that I believe that's been in place. The number of bee plants for 1 or 2 years, Mr. Moore. Is this one? Just something that's going to be online?
Through Mr. Mayor, so the updated tree policy was adopted by council in September of 2021. So basically that policy with respect to removal and replacement, it's based on the diameter of the tree that's being removed, determines the number of trees that are replanted.
Yes, I see 900 millimeters or something. Yeah, okay, excellent. Again, one last time, any other comments on the consent? Not seeing any. Turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the November 19th, 2025 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll just call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 12.2, staff reports requiring action. Our first item is 12.2.1, information report, corporate climate adaptation plan update. And I have a motion put forth by Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that council receive report 2025-0242 for information, and that council directs staff to participate in the Net Zero Communities Accelerator program with Quest Canada to develop a community Emergency and Emissions Plan, and that council approve the allocation of $3,000 in the budget to support this initiative. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on this report? Councilor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I want to be very clear in my communications on this report with regards to some of the wording. Net zero to me means that the global, the greenhouse gas emissions we produce are balanced by the greenhouse emissions we eliminate or remove, so the total added to the atmosphere is zero. The reason why I want to be very clear is I will be supporting the motion, but the important caveat for me is regarding the use of the word and the inclusion of the word communities. The pressure upon elected officials to legislate broad changes such as updates to the building code or policies that restrict natural gas, gas-powered vehicles, or even certain forms of energy generation is very large. This is not what I'm supporting here today. For me, a net zero goal is realistic only if it applies to municipal operations and is implemented gradually and practically. The town of Pelham directs and manages its own buildings, fleets, streetlights, and waste programs. These are areas where we have real control and can make measurable progress. With access to provincial and federal grants and by aligning upgrades with our normal capital budget cycles, Pelham can responsibly reduce emissions and offset the balance. The key is establishing timelines that match our staffing and financial capabilities. My support today is based on ensuring the net zero goal remains achievable, physically responsible, and limited to municipal operations, not a wider community mandate, beyond leading by example through the work of the town undertakes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hildebrand. Any other councilor have comments or questions? Not seeing any? Oh, Deputy Mayor.
Just on 12.2.2, I don't know if anybody else has or what I'm.
Oh, wait a minute, wait, I'm sorry.
We're on 12.2.1 at the moment.
Okay, so it's not open. Okay, thank you.
Yep, okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. On the, what is it, 12.2.1?
Point one.
The one on the climate. Any other comments or questions? Councilor Hildebrand, do you want to put an amendment, or you can put one forward, of course, and then we'll, if it's up to you.
I have no intention of making an amendment to the motion that they have in the report. I'm just stating that the pressure I receive from community members with regards to me supporting the restriction of natural gas, certain types of energy generation sources, and requiring everybody to have an electric vehicle is huge.
Yes.
And I want the members of the public to realize that I do not support, they want me to make changes to the building code, for example. And I have no intent of doing that. So the word community, if I support the word community, they're going to think I'm going to do these things for them. And I am not going to do that. And I want to make that plain to the residents in the town of Pelham. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hildebrand. Any further comments on this item? If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Yeah, I see none opposed. Thank you. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to 12.2.2, Ron Levins Memorial Park, East Von Hill Park, funding update. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be resolved that Council receive report 2025-0247 for information, and that Council approve the proposed park development for 2027 and the proposed funding amendment as presented within the report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So the report is pretty straightforward. Mr. Sear, you want to just give us the Coles notes, perhaps?
Well, it started from a bad news place in that we were unsuccessful in a grant application. But I'm proud of a team professionals have come up with an alternative way to keep the park more or less on track and finance it alternatively. The report indicates there'll be some money out of the reserve, but mostly by deferring other projects in other parks will still allow us to produce this park in 2027. And so this relates, in fact, we discussed this during the budget presentation 48 hours ago. This was the one where something's materially changed since we published the budget, and here we are, so we have to react in real time. But we have a way going forward with this important park. Council has some choice. You could, in fact, and we've provided some minor financial analysis on how, if you preferred us to take out debt and to proceed with all the projects, we could. But we think there's a responsible way to go forward, and it defers other things by a year. And in fact, this essentially defers the Ron Levins Park by a year, although we'll spend this year doing the engineering, the planning of the park, and that will, of course, involve the Levins family. And so we have a way to more or less stay on track and still produce all the things that this community deserves. So we look forward to your commentary. There are two different ways forward, but you have the recommendations within it. So thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Comments on this, Councilor Kerr?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we didn't get the grant, but I think this is the most logical mechanism to move the project forward. The other projects, again, are down the line as well, so moving them or slightly deferring them by a year is not a huge change in my position. So I'm quite amenable to this report, and we'll support it.
Okay, thank you. Any, Councilor Nesnick?
Yes, so I'm all in favor of parks, and I do think Town of Pelham needs more parks. But my understanding with this park was that it was supposed to be more of a natural kind of passive park. And when I see what the outline is, it's definitely not that. Adult fitness areas, beach volleyball area, and those sorts of additions. And I just find that the design and inclusion cost is so high to put a park in. It's just scary it's going to cost more to design the park than it is to actually create the park. And that, to me, there's some disconnect there that I would just, so I'm not sure how to proceed. I think your options on how to finance it are reasonable, but I'm just wondering if consideration to scale back what goes in the park would help save some dollars from that area. So those are my thoughts. I'm not sure what other councillors think.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions on the park? Councillor Kerr?
Yeah, when I read through here, it says during the park design process, elements are considered. It doesn't necessarily mean that they would be included. So I think that's an important part. It may have looked like all these things are going to be in it, but I think they want to consider, can they, can't they? Does the physical space allow it? Are they required, et cetera? So I think the original funding didn't have all of this, but I think that is sort of addressed by this, just to say so.
And we will go to the Director of Rec for clarification.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely, right on the nose. We're in the design process. These elements were taken from the East Fonthill, the original plan, as well as we know, we're lacking, a multi-purpose court now since we've removed the one at the arena. There's certain areas in Parkland that you want a multi-purpose court and certain areas you don't. And in this area, the homes are not directly beside the park, but across from it. And when you have a multi-purpose court, you have bang, 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 bang. So this was an opportunity to have that in place and service the Fonthill area. So the design process will be beginning probably by February. There will be, community input as well as council, and a concept plan will come out of it, and we'll move on from there. And you never know. there may be grant opportunities in the meanwhile. Meantime, we just need to make sure that council realizes where we're at with the not receiving the grant we expected. So lots of great stuff.
Thank you, Ms. Van Ravensway. Any other questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Just quickly, funding of this park, first of all, is there any impact on the construction that's going on in that area that we would not want to proceed with the park until that's finished, or are we okay with going ahead with this while construction is happening? That's number one.
I see the CEO is reaching for his mic.
I think it's a good Mr. Marr question that his vocabulary goes farther than mine, but I will say that part of the reason the design engineering is a little bit expensive on this park is that it's got a water course in it that's largely or entirely man-made. I'm not sure on that. It's at least largely man-made, and is going to serve a bunch of property drainage to a bunch of homes that aren't yet built. So there is a lot of engineering on that side for a very valid reason. That being said, he with the technical answers is Mr. Marr.
We'll go to the Director of Public Works, Mr. Marr.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so CEO is correct. It is a man-made channel, so any work that happens along the banks of that channel it'll have to be engineered. With respect to the timing with the construction of the subdivisions that are taking place to the west, it is on town property, so it's on private property. And if we did proceed ahead of the development being completed, there are ways to separate the work zones, future work zones, from the parkland area. So those could be considered as part of the design phase as well.
Accountant Deputy Mayor.
Perfect, thank you. And the second part of my question is, so we're delaying, not postponing, but delaying a couple of projects here. And what impact did we look at about not doing the lighting at Diamond 2? Because we've had lots of presentations from the baseball community. What impact will that have on that project?
To the Director of Recreation and Wellness.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we have been in consultation with Pelham Minor Ball. They're the sole users as yet. And delaying it 1 year is fine because we've just lit Diamond 3 in Fenwick, and that has assisted with their demand. Diamond 2 at Harold Black is not lit at the present time, so.
Exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. And onward with the Vaughan Levens Park. Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next staff report is 12.2.3, Station Street Store Management Pond Construction Update. And I have a motion put forth by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2025-0239 for information, and that Council approve the award of the Station Street Storm Pond to Duffin Contracting using a design build delivery model in the amount of $300,095 plus applicable taxes. And Council approve a project contingency in the amount of $150,000, and that Council approve the Station Street Storm Pond project be funded through RD 1420 in the amount of $270,000, and $230,000 be funded through the capital project RD 1026. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Before I turn to council, just I'm being maybe more involved with this one than most councillors. I think the bottom line is that the Duffin Construction, they do have now a signed engineering report that to go forward with this project, and the fact that this is the same company that did the work on Sulphur Springs Drive whether it be 3 or 4 years ago now. And we know from Sulphur Springs Drive that they do quality work. And yeah, I'm hoping council will approve the funds. It is indeed a serious erosion problem that has got to be addressed sooner than later. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But it's if we approve that today, we've taken a big step in getting this job done. I'll open it to council. Councilor Kerr.
More of a question for Public Works. When was the storm water management facility originally constructed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it was 1973.
Fine, that answers a lot of questions for me based on the pictures provided as to where we got to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Yes, my concern is about the labeling. So which one of you came up with the term large riprap?
Well,
Yeah. And secondly, along the same lines, will this solve our issue with the pool by having a plunge pool at this location? Yeah, I just thought they were quite. I read the blurb underneath it as well, so I know what it is. But yeah, I just thought the names were entertaining. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think if you wanted to put your swimming suit on and give it a shot.
I'll avoid the riprap.
Yeah. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further questions? Councilor Wink?
Yeah, this has been in front of us for years, you know, and before this term of council, there's been a lot of negotiating with different outside agencies beyond our control. I'm sure Mr. Duffin's been frustrated with this entire project. I just want to see us get this thing done. Like it's a long time coming, and you know, we can't keep on letting it deteriorate, you know, so it's good to see that this project's here and let's get her done.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Wink. Councilor Nesnick.
So, yeah, so just following up with regards to appointing Duffin as the contractor, is that going outside of the traditional RFP that we were just mentioning earlier, that the process that we should be following, and now we're not following it? So I think we need some consistency on this. I understand if Duffin was originally given the contract back and then there were delays, then that might make sense, but I just want to make sure we're consistent in our approach to assigning projects. If anyone could comment on that, please.
I will go to our CAO, Mr. Cribbs.
I'll give a really generic answer, and if you'd like more specific advice, then please bring a motion to go enclosed and receive legal advice. Town solicitor is well-versed in the file and fully prepared to provide that. My general commentary, which is as much in the abstract as it is in this case, is proper tender documents, properly designed, allow for the evolution of a project after it's awarded. This is a classic example of we had one thing in mind, there was one reality. As the years of after problem after problem after problem, there's been a material deterioration and erosion of the site, and now there's a whole different technological fix. Where that happens, essentially, again, assuming you have appropriate tender documents or appropriate contracts, you sort of have a choice of either saying you have to start over again, or say this is a reasonable evolution of the original intent. That's the plain, there's some law around that, but that's the plain English. And in this instance, we have a contractor that I've had a more or less front row view for 6 years, 4 months, and a couple of weeks, not that we're counting. And I have seen best efforts made to advance this thing, and for a whole bunch of reasons, those have been thwarted. So we find ourselves at a decision point. Your staff are comfortable proceeding because it is still fundamentally a project to deal with drainage and erosion of a stormwater pond. The essence of the report is that while the costs are anticipated to be higher, we have ways to pay for those, and we think there's a way to proceed now. So if you want very specific advice, we're happy to provide that to you, albeit enclosed. That's a simple motion, happy to do so. But generally speaking, this is a viable way forward in the opinions of engineering, legal, and whatever it is I bring to the table.
Thank you. Councilor Nesnick?
Yes, so thank you. I have found the paragraph that kind of states just similar to what you said, that Duffin originally had it, and now it's just changed a little bit. So I'm satisfied with your explanation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 17, resolution to move in camera. And I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved, that council resolve into closed session to consider the following matters. Item 1, closed session report 2025-0249, agreement negotiation with respect to personal matters about an identifiable individual as per section 239(2)B. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege as per section 239(2)F. A position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiation as per 239(2)K. And item 2, closed session report 2025-0230, potential acquisition of land, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land as per section 239(2)C. To Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll have the vote on moving in camera, and then after that vote, we will take a 5-minute break. Any questions on moving into camera? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those that agree, none opposed. We will be going in camera, and right now we'll have a 5-minute break.